Part 1. Life in the Eyes of a Buddhist. Happiness. One of my students once asked me how to be happy, and I thought the question was easy to answer. By letting go of attachment, one achieves happiness. But over time, I found that such a straightforward answer does not work for everyone. What exactly is attachment? How do we let go of it? These are issues worthy of further examination. So when I face the same question nowadays, I reply by asking, how are you feeling right now? Happiness, after all, is one's state of mind. Sometimes people are not unhappy, but they perceive themselves as being that way. If you observe how your mood changes over time, you will find that emotions affecting your mood are like clouds, changeable and easy to disperse. From afar, clouds can appear solid, as if you could walk on them. But if you reach them, of course you could not. Even so, clouds often build up in the sky. Likewise, emotional clouds, too, often gather in us to shape our state of mind. If our emotions are dominated by positive ones, like joy and contentment, we feel happy. What brings happiness? The relief of pain and suffering makes us happy. Do not regard happiness as something that can only be achieved through daunting effort. Happiness is discoverable anywhere, even in the life of an ordinary person. A drink makes you happy when you are thirsty. A hearty meal makes you happy when you are hungry. A seat to sit on while riding the subway makes you happy after a long, exhausting day. And the extraction of a decaying tooth makes you happy if you have been suffering from a toothache for days. Happiness can also be a cool breeze on a summer night, or the shade of a tree that shelters you from the scorching sun. Happiness can even be found in the simplicity of a single breath. Meditating on one's own breath is a common technique taught to beginners. By mentally following each round of inhalation and exhalation in quiet awareness, we try to bring our mind to a neutral and tranquil state, which allows us to experience inner bliss. Sometimes happiness is delivered by the most modest changes in our lives. The respiratory symptoms associated with a common cold, such as nasal congestion or a runny nose, can be maddening. After experiencing them, just being able to breathe normally can generate a sense of relief so powerful it borders on joy. Happiness is always close at hand, but we are either too restless to be aware of it, or it is too fleeting to be relished to the fullest. If we can look inward and observe our emotions and thoughts as much as we examine the blemishes on our faces, it will not be difficult to sense the happiness present in every moment. If we do not entrust happiness solely to the ephemeral pleasures and thrills that the material world brings, our sense of happiness can be both extended and expanded. The root of our unhappiness, as the Buddha says, comes from attachment. Attachment to a self and attachment to things around us. We believe in an inherently existent self. This is my physical body, my idea, my house, my friend, and so on. But that belief is a miscomprehension of our true nature. The 2nd century Indian Buddhist master Nagarjuna's Fundamental Verses of the Middle Way, and the 8th century Indian Buddhist master Shantideva's The Way of the Bodhisattva provide detailed instructions on how to eliminate the attachment to a self. In short, there is no such self that exists intrinsically from the Buddhist point of view. Is the person you see in the mirror every morning really you? A biology teacher will tell you that our bodies undergo constant metabolism, which leads to the continuous death and renewal of many of our cells. Moreover, your image in the mirror changes constantly. If friends who have not seen you for decades meet you again, they may hardly recognize you at first sight. The only reason that they can still identify you is that you do not exist in isolation, and your associations with them and the world around you leave traces that connect your past with the present. After all, nobody in this world comes out of a void. Our relativity, our links with people and the environment, is what allows us to be identified and recognized. Once we see such relativity, we will start to understand the pointlessness of building a wall between the outer world and ourselves. The sense of frustration induced by the futility of doing so can only make us unhappy. Not only do we misread the dynamics between the outer world and ourselves, but we also know little about our inner world. For many, the strangest person in the world is oneself, and we rarely make efforts to understand ourselves better. How do I feel right now? Am I full or hungry? Cold or hot? Tired or energetic? Peaceful or restless? Interestingly, not everyone can answer these seemingly simple questions instantly due to our lack of mindfulness and awareness of our present state. It's ironic that in an era of information we may know a lot about the US presidential election, but little about our own physical and emotional experiences and wants. Our minds are too scattered to take the opportunity to know ourselves better. To gain and maintain moment-to-moment mindfulness, the practice of the 4 foundations of mindfulness is taught in an early Buddhist scripture. Mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings or sensations, mindfulness of consciousness, and mindfulness of the things around us. Through these 4 kinds of mindfulness, many negative emotions can be relieved. Perhaps some of you have had this experience. As you feel a physical pain, you mentally focus on the pain and observe it, its location, its extent, its intensity, and so on. After a short while, you notice that the pain starts to ease. When you are troubled by negative emotions, like anger, jealousy, anxiety, or fear, try to watch them closely in a similar way. Let's examine anger, which is the most harmful negative emotion. Before spiraling out of control, it has to go through a gradual process like a raging fire fanned by wind from tiny sparks. Many people will not notice the fire until it becomes uncontrollable. But if we pay closer attention, we can easily extinguish it at an early stage. Alternatively, we can also do nothing and simply watch how it develops. We might not know that we ourselves are often the ones that fuel the fire. Now that we are onlookers, the fire will eventually die down by itself. Other kinds of emotions develop in a similar pattern. Rather than being pushed around by them, turn to face them and watch calmly from where they come and where they go. Nothing, including negative emotions, lasts forever. When you feel jealous, angry, worried, fearful, or wronged, just tell yourself it's no big deal. You cannot keep feeling angry or worried throughout your entire life, even if you want to. We touched on the idea that there is no absolute boundary between oneself and the outer world. This connection gives us a chance to cultivate loving kindness and compassion. We seek happiness and avoid pain. We like to be loved and cared for. If someone misunderstands us, we feel aggrieved. These are the sorts of desires and feelings shared by all sentient beings. On a busy street, we can meet different kinds of people who want happiness just as we do, although they might be clumsy in the way they seek it. Understanding this commonality helps us develop empathy and tolerance. Being mindful of negative emotions rather than suppressing them can also help us develop compassion. When we are anxious, angry, jealous, or fearful, reflect on these emotions and think, there must be many other beings suffering just like me. For both them and myself, I must find a way to remove such suffering. Shantideva says that when we generate bodhicitta, the awakening mind, we are like an impoverished person who finds a gem in a garbage dump. It brings us endless joy and fulfills our wishes. Another sign of not knowing ourselves is that we do not know how to treat ourselves fairly and live at peace with ourselves. We are instead self-indulging, self-demanding, or self-criticizing. We are always dissatisfied with what we have, such as our appearance, intelligence, social status, wealth, and living conditions. Consequently, we spend our whole lives attempting to make these things better. The Buddhist scriptures term the world in which we live Sahalokadhatu, the world of endurance, imperfect yet bearable. It is foolish and futile to look for perfection in this world. Yet so many people work hard just for material comfort and fortune at the expense of life's simple delights. And at the end of their days, happiness is still a distant dream. A happy life must start with accepting imperfection. Be content, appreciate an imperfect I, and learn to say, I am happy with who I am and what I have. In this way, spiritual practice is not for us to acquire more skills, or to become more attractive, more accomplished, more affluent, or more enviable. More often, it is the other way round. A simple life with a contented mind is the goal. If we reflect deeply on our most basic attachments, even to people and things we generally consider vital to our happiness, we will see that none of them is indispensable to us. Looking outside of ourselves for happiness is like trying to quench one's thirst with salty water. The more we drink, the thirstier we get. My late root teacher, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, once said, although not all of us can be like Jetsun Milarepa, who completely renounced mundane life, we can at least be less attached. Everything comes with a price, including wealth and status. The 19th century master Patrul Rinpoche, even after becoming a prominent teacher, lived a simple life and travelled around unrecognized. One day, on his daily round of almsgiving, Rinpoche performed a transference ritual for someone who had recently passed away. When the auspicious signs of a favourable rebirth appeared after the ritual, the family of the deceased made an offering of 3 horses to Rinpoche as a token of gratitude. But Rinpoche, who looked rather shabby, refused, and said, "I do not want any offering. If you have 3 horses, you will have 3 horses' worth of trouble." Some may say that Tibetans live a harsh life, and that devotion to Buddhism fails to make their society more developed and their living more comfortable. We Tibetans, however, think differently. We define a developed society by its harmony and happiness, not by its material prosperity, for a rich life without joy is by no means a happy life. The Buddhist way of life is what allows us to achieve harmony and happiness. It is said that Nagarjuna wished to be reborn to a middle-class family that was neither too poor nor too rich. He believed this would spare him from worrying about either the necessities of life or the temptations of material excess, creating an ideal circumstance for Buddhist practice. For the same reason, many Tibetans are happy for their entire lives despite having humble homes and modest resources. They understand that the inner joy nurtured by contentment surpasses even the pleasures enjoyed by Indra, the king of gods. Conventional thinking dictates that we must have many things to be happy. However, sudden tragedies like death, illness, or natural disasters remind us that we do not need much to be happy. In addition, we often fail to recognize some of the basic and apparent features of the world, such as impermanence. Although all things in the universe change constantly, we instinctively seek security and become disillusioned as a result. Often such disillusionment and the frustration it brings are merely a reflection of our experience with impermanence. Once we understand and acknowledge impermanence as an inherent part of life, we will become less attached. Knowing that we are not the only ones who experience unfavorable situations and feel insecure, we will take things more light-heartedly. While still doing our best, we will realize that we cannot always get what we want, and it is pointless to be anxious about failure. Doing so will by no means make us pessimistic, nor will it render our life meaningless. Sometimes we should even be thankful for impermanence, for it provides us a way out of suffering. We can always have a new beginning, a second chance, a wiser way to live happier, as we are doing now through Buddhism. To help us subdue attachment further and attain happiness, we need to understand the other 2 important Buddhist concepts, causality and emptiness. I will elaborate on these 2 subjects in later chapters of this book.